Hey friends, it's Crander Q, aka my real name. We have a special treat today. We have our friend Eric Hannon out of First Wrestling, and we have Abby who brings in the views. Yes, she does loopy, and if you don't think so, well, just check the record books. Eric, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am good. I am good. I am so excited you're here. I know you and I have been working to get this lined up. As we've said off camera, you don't do too many of these, so I feel very special to have you here. So,
Well, hey, I feel special as well. We're going to do this thing. It's going to be fun. It's going to be cool. And how are you as well, Abby?
I'm great. Just been working all week, work again tomorrow morning, but this is worth staying up for. So
Hey,
here I am.
Come on, it's still kind of early.
I'm like an old lady.
Oh, fair enough.
yet she's not even 30 yet, folks.
Well,
But so, Eric, we got you here.
Important commodity.
Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, it's all good. I was just saying, sleep. It's an important commodity. We got
it. Yeah. So we'll just jump into it. Let's get some of those first earliest memories of wrestling, and kind of we'll lead down your path of your wrestling fandom.
Wrestling for me started really early. I'd end up at my grandparents' place, and my grandma kind of made it cool to watch wrestling because she made it cool in a sense that, like, oh, we're not supposed to do this. We're not supposed to be watching this. So like she'd kind of peek out the curtain after my folks had dropped me off and they were leaving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, they're gone. Mom and dad are gone. Now we can turn on wrestling. So that was kind of a thing that like I watched at their place when I was real young.
Very nice. I know my grandpa approved of it. My grandma hated it though. So I always had the channel return button on something, so that way I wouldn't get caught watching WCW back in the day.
You were quick with the trigger finger, ready to go.
Oh yeah, yeah. As soon as I heard somebody walking down that hallway, boom. So.
And the craziest thing about it was that little cheeky thing that grandma did to make sure that my parents, were far enough away that it was okay to turn wrestling on. My mom and dad loved it anyways. So it was just her way of making it seem a little cooler than it really was.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Can I ask, like, what would you watch? Like, what, like, promotions on TV?
So back then, because I'm a little older than you are, we had AWA on Saturday mornings.
Okay.
So yeah, so I would get dropped off there to like hang out while my folks were at work or whatever the case was, and we just watch AWA. And like, I remember like we watched AWA all the time and Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, like that's all we did.
Never pegged you for a Star Wars guy.
I mean, I'm not. I wouldn't say that I'm a Star Wars guy or a Star Wars fan, but I've definitely seen all those movies.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And not to get off topic too much, I love them, but it's not like something that I'm obsessed with, so.
There's wrestling and like everything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly.
Gotcha. No, hey, yeah. I understand.
So with those early AWA days, was there any wrestlers that stood out that grabbed your attention right from the get-go?
It was kind of just all of it.
Okay.
Like everything. It was just wrestling. There was something about it that like hooked me, and I was like, I don't know what this is yet, but it's so cool. And like, I don't like this guy, and I don't like that guy, and like, why is everybody beating up Wahoo McDaniel? Like, what the hell is going on? And it just turned into a thing that I just looked forward to every time I got a chance to go hang out with Grandma and Grandpa.
Very nice.
Yeah. Because I don't remember. I remember some of the wrestlers for sure, but I don't feel like there were any that like really drew me in, that like really like had my attention more so than others. It was just all of it as a whole. I was like, I can't get enough of this.
Yeah, for me, it was more, I think it was just finding it through video games first, and then stumbling upon it on TV going, wow, this is actually real? Like those characters on those video games are real? Because that was during the Mortal Kombat days and the Sega, and then, having all these wrestling games, and then the WrestleMania game that was kind of like the Mortal Kombat. I just thought it was another type of game. And then the kid that I hung out with had all these action figures, so I just thought it was all kind of connected. Little did I know, when I seen that first WWF match, I was just like, wow, this is actually real on TV.
And that was it. Then it was over.
Oh yeah, yep.
What about
And,
you, Abby? How did you fall into this whole wrestling mess?
So my dad's watched it my whole life. So
Okay,
I've
cool.
always kind of been around it. And I've been like in and out of love with it as I grew up. Like when I was really little, like Trish, I mean, still to this day, Trish Stratus is my girl, my
Oh,
favorite.
yeah.
I'm so excited for her to have another WrestleMania match. But like I always just kind of had it on in the background. And it wasn't really until honestly like NXT when like Sasha Banks and Charlotte and Becky Lynch were kind of like doing their thing and Bayley that I really started to get into it again. And then it wasn't until I started going to independent shows where I'm like, okay, I like do really love this. And, you know, AEW coming out. Because I liked WWE, but there was always just kind of something there where I would almost get bored with it a little bit. And then I'm like, wow, like this independent stuff is super fun. And then AEW came out. I'm like, this is super fun too. So like, you know, I've kind of gone in waves of how I like it. But, you know, today, like this is probably the most that I've loved wrestling. And I like to, I mean, you know, I go to all the shows, all of it. Like it's one of my favorite things.
I think it's one of those things that if you're a fan for long enough, there's definitely an ebb and a flow to like how deep into it you really are, or like, you know what, I'm going to pull back a little bit. And when it's time, I know it'll still be there. And like, that's actually kind of a cool thing about wrestling is you can take a time out. You can have other life things going on. Cal's got a whole wedding thing he's got going on.
Randy, take a shot. That's an inside joke here at the podcast.
Oh, everybody.
Randy, he's got to take a shot every time we mention Amy. So feel free to let's get him drunk. So
deal. All right. So yeah. So like, you know, you're going to plan the wedding. You're going to have the wedding. You're going to do all that. And like wrestling will still be there when you're ready to come back to it. And like, that's cool. Like Abby's busy with work. She can do whatever she's got to do during the day, during the night, what have you, family. Wrestling will be there. And that's actually like a really cool thing about this crazy thing we do.
Right.
Yeah, and Abby's starting to turn into me, like where I went on that tear, I think that one year, it was the Darren Corbin, Eric Cannon tour 2018. Like every weekend I was bumping into you guys. They're like, oh, you're here. I'm like, I'll see you next weekend too up in, you know, Tower, Minnesota.
Right.
You know, and I went down to the Comic-Con in Chicago and we almost went to freelance wrestling that night. But we were so exhausted from the con, we didn't go. And I believe it was Darren that was wrestling down there that night. But, you know, it just, I've seen you guys in so many cities, I can't even count, you know, so.
Well, hey, I'm sure there's another one coming.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'll be down there next weekend. So.
Okay, very cool.
Same tease.
Oh, there you go.
Free photo. No, I'm just
Got
kidding.
my hotel booked. I'm ready to go.
We'll try to line our heads up just like this, and we'll take that photo all over again.
There we go. Perfect. So with that being said, you know, like we're talking live events here. First Wrestling puts on a hell of a performance. We talk about them all the time here. People are probably sick of it, but I'm not sick of it. What were some of your first live events that you remember?
So I'm a Christmas baby. My birthday is December 23rd. And at that time of year, like you can't really plan a birthday party. You know what I mean? Like, especially for young kids, because when we're younger, our parents are busy with the holidays, and our friends, their parents are busy with the holidays and just all that stuff. So I bring that up to sort of illustrate, like, that's when I got to go to wrestling shows when I was a kid, because it was like, what do you want to do for your birthday? Well, I know that none of my friends can hang out. I know that we can't have a party. I know we can't do anything like that. Is there like WWF coming to town? Is WCW coming to town? That's what I want to do for my birthday. So I did a lot of that when I was younger. It was kind of like an annual thing. And like my sister would take me to the shows, or I'd end up, once I got like older into high school, we used to go to like every WWE, every WCW show that was at the Target Center. Like we would be like 3-4 cars deep, high school kids, 12, 15 guys and girls, like just always at the show having a blast. So I went to a lot of shows as a kid. Yeah.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to go to a few as a kid, but then it, you know, when I moved to Superior, I was introduced to the, you know, heavy on wrestling. And that was kind of more when it took off with, you know, the staple of, you know, guys and gals that were there. So.
Yeah, my first live show was actually a TNA Impact house show in Bemidji, Minnesota,
Oh, wow.
back in
All right.
2011. Very random, but that was when I was like, I loved Jeff Hardy at the time, and that's when he was in his second run in the company.
Okay.
I mean, he wasn't at the show, but like that's what kind of got me into it. And we went to this Bemidji show, and I don't remember even really what happened. I know like Samoa Joe was there, and like Jeff Jarrett and Madison Rain. But that was my first show. And then I didn't go to another live show until like 2017 or 2018 for Heavy On.
Okay.
But yeah. And then from there, I've kind of been going nonstop.
But between that show in Bemidji and then back to Heavy On, were you still watching on TV and stuff too? Or
I mean, like, it would be kind of the thing where you'd have it on in the background. And
Okay.
like, you know, I'd like, well, at that time, WWE Network wasn't a thing. But like we would order like Royal Rumble and WrestleMania each year type deal. But I wasn't like super, super into it. Like I knew what was going on, but if I missed an episode, I didn't really care type deal.
they were going to give you all the highlights anyways.
Exactly. But yeah, it wasn't until like NXT really started taking off where I like really started to watch WWE again.
Okay, cool.
And you came in at a great time, definitely during that NXT, the Black and Gold brand, the Women's Revolution.
Right.
You know,
I was
that
going
was
to ask
some.
if that was part of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, like I remember seeing Sasha Banks and like I'm like, that's my new Trish Stratus right there. And I mean, and she kind of has been like now she's over in Japan and I still love her. I credit her with getting me back into wrestling because like once I saw her on TV, I was like, this is it. The attitude. She does all these cool moves that I'm not used to seeing because I'm used to seeing like the Bellas or Maurice, and no disrespect to them, but I mean, they're no Sasha Banks. So that really got me back into it.
It reinvigorated your love of wrestling and you were hooked.
Yes, exactly.
Cool.
Yep.
It's so funny. Like I brought it up, I think when we talked with Kara, how Abby and I actually met was at a Heavy On Wrestling show, and her dad was sitting next to me, and she was cheering for Sebastian Taylor, and I was like, "What are you doing?" You know, I'm clowning on her for her favorites. Obviously, we all know my love of Darren Corbin. Sorry.
It's all right.
You know, so I was clowning on her, and then what has it been, like 5-6 years now?
Yeah.
You know, Abby and I are always talking wrestling. She always comes on the podcast. Randy Loves Finger Guns or whatever they're called. But, you know, that's the beautiful thing about wrestling is the networking, meeting people, getting to meet some really good friends, you know, pun intended with that one. But wrestling brings people together. And that's what I love about First Wrestling. And I'm not just saying that because you're here today. It's just I feel like I've met so many cool people through wrestling. And that's what I love about your promotion is because everyone is welcome. You know,
it's actually a very crazy thing to say. Like there have been, I want to say 3 or 4 weddings that have stemmed from First Wrestling because these people have met each other at shows, or it's amazing. Like to think that this crazy thing we do is actually, truly, literally bringing people together. And it's one of the really cool things about what we do, especially at First Wrestling, is like, and you're both aware, like this whole First Wrestling family thing, like is crazy to me. It's super mind boggling that there's a group of like, what, 70 or something.
There's a ton of us.
They're like this group of people that's, you know, just ever growing because of wrestling. I think that's super cool.
Right. And like for me, at least, like I'm going to the show next weekend. I'm going solo. Like my dad's not going, no one's going, but like I don't feel like I'm going solo because all my friends are there.
Yeah.
You know, like I have people to hang out with. I feel safe. Like people look out for each other. And you know, we're already having plans. Like when are we going to go to Up Down before the show? Like what time? And like all just to get together, just, you know, to come see shows. And like before this, like I would have never thought I'd go to a wrestling show by myself. Like it would be like the last thing I'd want to do. But now like there's people there that like make me feel safe and comfortable where I absolutely can.
And like how crazy awesome is that? It's
it's wild.
And I think John Madden said it himself too, is that the fans police themselves there. If someone is out of line, the rest of the people that are there are obviously supporting someone.
Mhm.
that person's probably being a douche about. And then, it's crazy,
And
and
that's
but,
also a very cool thing about, especially at First Wrestling. Like our crowd is very self-policing,
mhm,
whether it be venue personnel or security, whatever the case may be. Like I always try to have some kind of a conversation with those people after our shows.
mhm.
How was everything? Was everything operating smoothly? Like, how was the crowd? Was there any like trouble? Did anyone have to get kicked out or whatever the case may be? 9 times out of 10, everybody's like, your crowd is so fucking cool. Everybody's polite. They say please. I watched people pick up their own garbage after the show. It was just,
We tip
uh,
well.
yeah, right.
Yep.
It's just, we've created a very cool thing at First Wrestling, and like, it's never lost on me how important it is that our fan base feels so comfortable and so welcomed, not just by us, but by each other as well. It's just, I would have never thought that this is the kind of thing we would be doing when First Wrestling started. And I couldn't be happier with where it has come and where we're at and what we're doing and what's next.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know the first wrestling show that I ever took Amy to was a first wrestling show, Randy Take a Shot, and it was the Pride show. And I think that is probably one, obviously, for her coming as well. But the crowd was just enjoying it. The burlesque, the drag. I was enjoying watching the girls fangirl for the burlesque. The drag was phenomenal. I gotta find the one girl that was there because I don't know, she reminds me of Lizzo, and every time she's out there, she just like captivates the crowd. Same with Nerdy. Just Oh man, just getting goosebumps thinking about that performance at WrestlePalooza with Nerdy, man. Like
Yeah.
that crowd was just going, and I to this day, I'm rocking Nerdy in the shower. Full disclosure, I'm dancing, I'm having a glorious time. He is definitely one of the people that just gets the crowd going. So
And Nerdy's a big wrestling fan too.
yep.
So, their performance and the set and all the energy that they brought to the
Mhm,
table was perfect,
mhm.
perfect for what we do. And I definitely don't believe that that's the last we'll see of Nerdy at First Wrestling events.
I'm
I
excited for that.
lost my mind when you guys had him at Mall of America. I was
Yes.
like, this
Yeah.
is already the start to like a historic show, and then you're gonna put Nerdy on there too. Like, it was perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Keep that energy up during that downtime. It was great. It was a lot
Yeah.
of fun.
And a shout out to Abby section too. I know she's heard me say this a couple times. Usually I'm very vocal at these shows. You've seen me with my signs, Eric. I like to just talk mad shit. But I was sitting there with Amy, so usually I'm a little bit more calm and collective. Randy, take a
Take
shot.
a shot.
And I could hear noise behind me on the second level. And that's when I spotted Abby. And that second level was just on fire. That show was amazing as well. But props to Abby and the First Wrestling family. They were making some noise. So
Yeah. It was that was an experience. That was super cool. I'm normally so busy at first events that I don't really get an opportunity to take much of the show in as a spectator. But we were under some different constraints and time allotments and stuff like that at the Mall of America. So that was one of the events that I saw a lot of. And even though I was working and the producing and all that stuff, it was still a blast to like take that in. And I was actually down on the floor in the crowd, and the energy was bonkers. It was very cool.
Would you say that that's your favorite event that you've done, or what do you think is your favorite first event you put on?
I mean, I think that has to be the one.
Right.
I tried to explain to my mom how like we've done a lot of cool stuff at First Wrestling, and like personally as a performer, I've done a lot of cool stuff over the years. But I kind of feel like Eric Cannon and First Wrestling brought live wrestling back to the Mall of America after all these years. That's going to kind of be like I don't want to say my legacy, because I don't know if I like that word, but like that's gonna be kind of like my mark, so to speak. Like that's a thing that we did at First Wrestling, and
that no one else has done since WCW.
Exactly. And like I couldn't be prouder of our team. Like that was such a team effort to make all that happen. So yeah, I think that, and I think it's safe to say that like I can speak for the whole crew when I say this, like that Mall of America thing, like that's going to be one of those memories that lives on for quite a while.
Well, and just everything you had around it, like Fan Fest was great. The after party was great. Like it was just good vibes all around. Like I didn't run into anybody that wasn't having like the time of their life.
Yeah. We still talk about it. It was so cool.
Oh yeah.
So cool. Yeah.
I still talk about it with people like all the time. My little brother, he's like, I want to go back to the mall and watch wrestling again. I'm like, me too, buddy.
Me too. Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Yep.
It was such a cool experience. Like, like to kind of to steal a tagline from our friends at Heavy on Wrestling, like the memories are waiting. Like, boy, did we make some memories that night. Like it was very cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and it definitely was trending all over Facebook on the wrestling forums. And I just remember people saying, "Hey, have you seen this?" And I'm commenting like, "Well, First Wrestling, blah blah blah, will be there this, on the anniversary." And people were shocked to see that it was happening again. One little picture I did steal off the internet here, Eric, to kind of show off. This is a great photo with everybody.
Yeah.
This was before, I'm assuming, the show or after, but I mean, just a historic, photo there of everybody involved there with your team. And you guys, we're gonna praise you all show, but I mean, it was a great show.
I'll give you a little behind the scenes on that photo. So Wednesday night, that photo was taken after the mall closed. The mall closed, and that's when we set everything up. So Wednesday night, mall is closed. Nobody's in the mall. And that's when we set the ring up. That's when we did all the production. That's when we put the entrance together, all that stuff. And then I was like, hey, I need everybody to get together. We have to take a photo. This is like a huge deal. And like, I'm not that person. I'm not a big, like, okay, everybody needs to do a group photo because this is a thing. I think I want them to count. You know what I mean? Like, hey, we're going to get this photo. Like, let's make it count. We don't need one every single show. But this one was a big deal. This one was important. I wanted to make sure that, like, that was one that we definitely had that photo for. So it was very cool to, like, be in the mall. It's empty. And we're just hauling the ring in.
Right. Setting up some chairs.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to let you guys keep that up, too, to even get more eyes on it,
Yep.
Props to them. And I think Rob Page said there was 4 people in the locker room that were on the first wrestling show and that were actually on that card that night as well, I think. Was it 4 or 5 or?
It's definitely a small number.
Yep.
But yeah, it was very cool. It was so very fucking cool.
I also just want to say, like, when you announced it at WrestlePalooza, that's one of the loudest sounds I've ever heard in my life. The way that all of us went off.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching, I was there, but I was like watching videos after. I'm like, that's insane. Like, I haven't heard it popped out loud like ever at an independent show.
In the ring, I was like, oh my goodness. Yeah. Like you probably can't see it, but like I'm getting goosebumps right now just like talking about it. Because I was hanging out of that for a long time too.
Yeah, and because I always think worst case scenario with my OCD and stuff, and you coming out, I'm like, he better not retire. He better not retire. And Amy's like, what? Randy, take a shot?
Take a shot.
I'm like, if he retires, I'll probably cry. Because I've known you since like 2008, 9.
Yeah.
You've been super great to me. And I'm just like waiting, like, please don't say you're retiring. Please don't say you're retiring. I'm not going to cry in front of Amy. Randy, take a shot. But I'm so glad that it was an announcement, for something positive versus that. I was bracing myself that night. And like Abby said, the pop was just poof. through the
I
roof.
remember I was like standing by Loopy and we were like watching the little video. And as soon as like the WCW part came up with like the Mall of America, I'm like, oh my God, they're going to the Mall of America. And Loopy's like, well, we'll just wait a minute. And I'm like, no, like you're going to the Mall of America. And then, yeah, it went off and we were wild.
Major kudos to Chris Huffman, who helped put that video together.
It's so good.
He absolutely captured the history and the excitement of what we were about to tell people we were going to do. He's amazing. He's the best.
He really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely want to get him on a future episode with all of his graphics that he does. I do some, they're just copy and paste. I would like to learn a thing or two from him, but yeah, that man is very creative with his posters and stuff. So
yeah, he's the best. He's great. He's a huge part of what makes First Wrestling so cool. Yeah.
Abby, any questions there? Just kind of fangirling out here over Chris right now.
I guess what made you decide to actually be a wrestler? Like, what was that point?
I just grew up watching it, and it was nothing really like took hold of me more than wrestling. Like I played baseball and football and hockey, and I always thought like, oh, it'd be really cool to, play college baseball, or, like I never like thought, oh, I think I'm going to be a professional baseball player. I never thought like I'm going to play in the NHL. It was just like, I'm doing these things because I can do them right now. But all I really want to do in life is be a professional wrestler. And it's such a weird thing too, because especially back then, it wasn't as common or as popular in the sense of, where do I go to get trained? How do I become a professional wrestler? How do I research this? What can I, but yeah, it was just, we're going to blame grandma. It's her fault.
I love it.
And back then too, Abby, I just want to give a little disclaimer. Eric and I are a little bit older, as we mentioned. We didn't have like this fast speed internet thing like you did growing up. So, we had to like use a newspaper or wrestling magazines or VHS tapes. I just want to get that out there to let people know that we actually had to work to get our wrestling versus just a touch of a button.
Yeah, but you're also telling people how old we are.
Yeah. Hey, I'm still stuck in the 2004 era playing my video games. I love my VHSs. I got the VHS tattoo to remind me of the good days. So
it was just a very different time, and it made things a little. I don't want to say it made it harder. It just made it more. Look, if you really want to do this, you are really going to have to go after it.
Right.
Because it wasn't a thing that you could just Google and be like, hey, where can I get trained? You had to like literally go find it. Yeah.
One thing I do want to touch base on, we kind of mentioned it off camera, with our sponsor here at Friends of the Squared Circle. How did you and Darren first meet? We don't need the whole 18, 20 years you guys have been together, but how did that all kind of start out?
I want to say that when Corbin was in school, he was going to college in St. Cloud. And at some point, there was a reporter that came into, at the time, it was called Midwest Pro Wrestling. The MPW Training Academy, or I don't remember what it was called, actually. Maybe it was, I think it was just called the training camp, whatever it was. A reporter, a journalist from that area came in and did like a bit of an article, a report, so to speak, on like Midwest Pro Wrestling and what it is. And there are men and women being trained to do this. And at the time that was located in Rogers, Minnesota. Okay. So this guy came in and he did his story, and that story then was online and I want to say it was in print, but anyways, small world, Darren Corbin actually knew that guy.
Okay.
So then Darren had a bunch of questions for him, which eventually led to Darren beginning his training at MPW.
Okay. So now I want to show off a few pictures of your guys' lovely relationship. It's one of the best rivalries in Minnesota and everywhere else. So we'll start with a little bit of supporting my boy Darren here. Yeah, but we also know you love him so much that you just got to tell him that he's number one once in a while. Yeah. And this one is a beautiful one here. Just letting him know who's boss. So yeah.
Right.
So
I like that one. Might be my favorite photo.
Yeah. I mean, your guys' matches remind me of a lot of like Raven and Tommy Dreamer, the Cena Ortons. Like you see it all the time, but when it happens, it's always entertaining. Something special always happens. I still have a piece of the table where you guys bled on. Should probably get that in like a frame so we keep that, from getting me sick or anything. But you guys have always had, stellar matches. And again, I'm not just saying that because you're here. I know other people would agree with me. Abby being one, Loopy, everyone at First Wrestling, who loves Eric Hannon. I'm the few that, are diehard Corbin because I met him first. But
that's also like a super cool compliment that I think both of us hear quite a bit. Like, well, I've seen you guys wrestle each other like a dozen times, but man, it's always so good. And that's a pretty cool thing to have fans tell us, because like, we know you've seen us wrestle each other before and we know that so it's important to us that, hey, we've definitely wrestled in this town in front of a lot of these people before. Let's make sure that they get a different experience tonight. And that's just, part of what we do.
And every time it's good.
Yep. Go ahead, Ed.
I was saying every time it's good.
Like, especially at the Mall of America. I was a little pissed after the ending, but then we all know what happened. No spoilers. If you wanna watch it, you can buy the DVD. Is it Smart Marks, where they can get the DVDs eventually, or they can?
So we're still working on the DVD.
Okay.
We tried to make sure there was a lot of cool extra stuff in there.
Perfect.
So that's being finalized right now. But I think you can still watch the stream on Fight.
Okay. I just don't want to give too much away because I want people to purchase that stuff and get that. This isn't a post wrestling show podcast or prediction. That's everybody else's forte. But definitely Darren Corbin versus Eric Hannon is never disappointing. So
I'm sure that you have not seen the last of that either.
I'll never get tired of seeing it. So. But I always got to pick, and I feel bad because, again, I have these little tiers of who to boo and, who to cheer for. And this is one of my favorite photos with you in our early days. This goes back to, I don't even know how far ago, but here I am trying to get, a nice little slap on the hand. He's like, no, I know you're a Corbin fan. Screw you.
I'm trying to think. Was that the Legendary show?
Legendary show. Yep. You teamed with Ben Saylor, and you and I were actually jaw-jacking back and forth because I'm like, we want Corbin. And you're like, yeah, I know you do, but I'm here right now. I was like, okay. That's before I got to know you guys a little bit better. So
once I saw that photo, I was like, oh, where's that from? But that, a lot of stuff over the years. It came back though.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of a lot of stuff over the years, is there like one particular match or opponent that like has been like your favorite, like, or also just been kind of like a jaw-dropping moment where you're like, I cannot believe I'm wrestling this person right now?
In 2004, I wrestled Bryan Danielson for the first time. Well, the only time.
Wow.
Actually. And so I had been wrestling at that point for about 3-ish years. And Bryan is like this. This is a testament to how amazing of a performer and how amazing of a professional wrestler he is, because back in 2004, he was probably the best wrestler in the world, like hands down. Right. So I learned so much in that match with him that helped me become not only a better wrestler, but also a better performer. and it taught me a lot about listening to the crowd and being able to kind of change gears when the crowd is waiting and ready for those things. Whereas before I would have just kept wrestling. I would have just kept going. But yeah, in 2004, I wrestled Bryan Danielson and he was absolutely amazing. So to think that fast forward 19, 20 years later, he's even better now than he was then.
Right.
It just makes me think, oh, it'd be really cool to have that match again today.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you just had a Iron Man match like 3
Yeah.
days ago. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I learned a lot from him and that match. Yeah, there was just so many things about that match that going into it, I would have never expected to have been bestowed with like all these bits of wisdom and tricks of the trade and just all this stuff that was eye-opening and at the same time also mind-boggling because he was and is that amazing at this crazy thing we do. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of big names now that are, you know, in WWE and AEW that have came through First Wrestling.
Yep.
Seth Rollins, aka Tyler Black. I love Colt Cabana. Every time he's there too, he's just a riot.
Great.
Top
you know,
flight.
Top Flight. Yep.
Incredible.
I tell you what, man, they live up to that
There's a
name.
bunch
That's
of,
for sure.
it's been very cool to see
Mhm.
so many of these performers stop in at First Wrestling on their way to bigger and better things, but it's also very cool when those guys and girls can come back.
Yep.
Like that's always a very cool treat, very special for the crowd. It's special for me and the rest of us in the locker room too to see our friends succeeding and doing well. So
Well, I mean, my first Palooza show was when Arya came back.
I was just gonna say, let's not forget Arya, man.
Yeah.
I love Arya.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we talked about the Mall of America pop earlier, but like the Arya pop too is just wild.
So that was the October show in 2021, I think.
I think so. I think it was the first Palooza you guys did after COVID.
Where
think.
nothing was announced.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
it's still sold out.
Yeah. It was my first show, and I'm like, I don't even care who's there. It's gonna be good.
Yeah. There was that was very cool because like I asked everyone, I was like, hey, look, I know this is gonna sound weird, but can we hide your merch until after you've been in the ring? That way, from start to finish, the entire night is just one surprise after another. And everybody was super cool about it. So
yeah, that was the night that I kept looking over at the merch tables like come on, like I want to get my, stuff, before the show. Because I like to get it, then I don't have to wait after.
Sure.
But I also wait after too because I love talking with everybody. But
that was one of those cool things, like that team effort. Everybody was down to play ball to help create something very cool for all the fans that were in the room that night. And like, I couldn't be more appreciative of the people who are on the crew all the time, but also the people that stop in and out of First Wrestling. They know that we're going to do something cool every time they're there, and they're down to play ball and they trust me. And it's just very cool and very rewarding to see these crazy things we put together come to fruition for fans.
Well, and like even Orange Cassidy coming back from Mall of America, like that was incredible too. I mean, signed to AEW, doing great things over there, and yet he still makes the time to come up here and do show at the Mall of America.
Yeah. And he cheated Darren Corbin out of the VFW title.
I mean, I don't know if that happened, but I mean, that's one person's. It
was almost a year reign, Eric. I was there on a bad hip, and I already got disappointed. But anywho, that's another rivalry between you and Arya that was fantastic. I think one of the favorite clips, I tried to find it, was where they're zoomed in on you and someone yells, "Fuck him up, Eric," and you turn around and you're like, "That's my mom." Like that's such a beautiful clip, and
that was I'm trying to think, when was that? That was
it the ladder match one?
WrestlePalooza 5.
Okay, yep.
During the ladder match, somehow my mom had wiggled to ringside
Mhm.
And she's right there on camera screaming. And I was like, whoa, that's my mom. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the Mall of America too, everybody made sure that she got placed where she needed to be placed, and so she could watch you out there. So,
And like, how cool is that? Like,
mhm.
like we were talking about how cool everybody is and how self-policing and just like in general, like welcoming and protecting of one another. Like, fans in the crowd made sure that my mom could sit as close as she wanted to watch us wrestle at the Mall of America. Like, that's super cool. Super cool.
And then Abby, if you got one more question, then we'll kind of wrap this up so we can get Eric on to what he's got to do tonight here.
Yeah, I
That
do.
way we get you out of here on time here.
Speaking about, you're obviously the promoter of like First Wrestling and everything. You kind of have to look at talent. Who are some talent around the Midwest that you think are gonna really be making it in the next couple years?
Don't say Loopy. Don't say Loopy.
I will not say
talent, Cal. Luffy's not talent.
Touche. I think that Devon Monroe is destined for stardom. I think that that it factor that everybody talks about, like, oh, you need that, you have to have that. I think Devon Monroe is that it factor.
Absolutely.
And I see very cool things for him in his future. I believe, I don't know if we're going to call Texas the Midwest, but I think Brian Keith is on track to do some really amazing things. Let me see. Who else?
He's waiting for you to say Riley Jackson.
That's Abby wants me to say Riley Jackson.
I was gonna say, I feel right now, there's like a Time Bomb show coming up. You can't mention Brian Keith without the front man, Jaw C.
I think that Jaw has all the potential in the world. I think it's just taking him a little time to harness it and to figure out what exactly it is that he has in the palm of his hand. But part of my job as a promoter is to like help him find that. And like, I want to make sure that Jaw is in the ring with great opponents that can help get him to that realization faster. Mm-hmm. So Jaw C for sure. Hayan is coming back she's also from Texas. So I don't know if we're going to say that's a Midwest talent, but I think that Hayan's going to do some really cool stuff. Goodness, that's a great question. Put me on the spot.
There's so many. I feel wrestling in the Midwest right now is just on fire.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of like someone that maybe people wouldn't expect to hear from me. But yeah, no, I think those are the names that come to mind real quick. We'll save Riley Jackson for the next one.
Yeah, I know that we always talk about Devon Monroe on here, how he's our champion. Abby and I both fanned over him when she was on the first time and the second time. So it's only rightfully so that we, fan out for him again. When I first saw him wrestle, I believe it was Little Nady wrestled, but just afterwards, I was like, I need to go get a picture with that guy. I need to go say, hey, hell of a job. I need an 8x10, and then unfortunately he didn't have any. Luckily, he's starting to get those because, as you know, every time I see you, I get an 8x10. Even though you try to give it to me, I'm always trying to pay because, I'm trying to support you guys like you support me. But, Devon Monroe is our champion. Everything he does for First Wrestling is amazing, especially those banger of a matches with Sonny Kiss.
That was my favorite match of the year was him versus Sonny Kiss.
Yeah.
All righty. Well, we'll get some plugging here for you. Then you can plug your socials and stuff like that. But you got some upcoming shows there at First Wrestling if you want to kind of read these off for us here.
Friday, April 28th, First Wrestling will be in Forest Lake, Minnesota at the Forest Lake High School for the Ranger Rumble. This is going to be a very cool event. I actually graduated from this high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and one of the other performers is actually a teacher at this high school. And the show is a fundraiser for a program called Rangers Helping Rangers. And what that program does is it creates a fund for all of the students in the area to access, so that they can get their activities or their sports paid for,
Very nice.
so that they can participate in things that they may not have otherwise been able to. So that's a very cool thing we're doing. And it's just wild, like, to think that not only am I going to bring professional wrestling back, or well, not back, but like I'm going to bring professional wrestling to my high school,
Hmm.
but we're also going to try to do something cool for the community at the same time.
Very nice.
And
Then we
you're
know
hanging out with me there. I'll be there.
All
Got
right.
me 3 golden
whoever
circles.
doing, yeah, whoever doing at my job, I'm not getting in the ring. So
I think I got
All
tickets
right.
to all these shows coming up, actually.
oh, you probably
Hell yeah.
do it now.
Yeah.
This one's on a Thursday. We're back at the Uptown VFW, and there's Hyon, there's Brian Keith, there's Devon Monroe, and then that guy that Cal really likes. And this one's almost sold out too. Like, it's so crazy to think how quickly our fan base attacks tickets. It's very cool, and I'm beyond appreciative of our fan support, and I think that show is going to be a very good one. We're going to do some fun stuff on that show for sure. On a
Yeah,
Thursday.
I love that it sells out, and I also hate that it sells out, because it's like, all right, I'm trying to get things in order because I'm paying for a wedding. Randy, take a shot.
I know
All right.
for me, once I went to my first VFW show, I've gone to every one since. So
It's a very cool little spot. I
Yes.
really like that. I really like that venue.
I do too.
The St. Paul Slammer on Saturday, June 10th. This is a really fun event that we've started doing with Clutch Brewing in St. Paul. It's a very beautiful outdoor space during the day, and it'll be done in time for everybody to do whatever they see fit with the remainder of their Saturday night. That's an all ages show. So I think that it's just very cool that it's a very cool space for an all ages event.
I know
And
we're
this
excited.
Oops, sorry. Go ahead,
I
Abby,
know
sorry.
we're excited because we can go back to Duluth after and get home at a reasonable time. So
Hell yeah.
And then this last one we know will sell out. So if you haven't already heard or seen it, get your tickets now, because this one will sell out in a matter of moments. So
Yeah, WrestlePalooza, Sunday, June 18th at First Avenue in downtown Minneapolis. This is an 18 plus show, and yeah, WrestlePalooza has become our marquee event, and we do some really crazy stuff in that room. And I am just, it's a very cool feeling to realize that when we're there and that room is sold out, we're like in some just like ridiculously amazing company of all the other performers that have been in that room and on that stage and sold out that room. So yeah, those are always special to everyone involved, and that will definitely be a show that people do not want to miss.
And yeah, the crowd, they're an extra part of that show. And once we get going, we don't stop. I mean,
Yeah,
and I always say that my favorite thing about going to those is as soon as Darren Corbin comes out, that crowd literally loses their mind with an "F.U. Corbin" chant. And
yeah,
I'm
lots
probably
middle
one of
fingers when he
3
comes out.
people, me and Abby and maybe Loopy, that are.
it depends who
Sure.
he's against.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So,
That's fair.
yeah.
Yeah.
As I remember some guy, I yelled, "Let's go Corbin." He's like, "Fuck you." And I was like, okay, but I'm going to keep cheering. So, but the last one here, we know you are partnering kind of with Heavy on Wrestling a little bit. I'm sure you'll be there to kind of help as well. That's coming up on June 25th. If you have any inside scoops, we'll take it here at Friends of the Squared Circle. If not, if you got any socials or any things you want to plug, the floor is yours, sir, and then we can get you on about your day here.
Sunday, June 25th. That's something that I don't want to say necessarily that I've been working on, but I've definitely been bothering the fellas at Heavy on Wrestling. I've been trying to help them understand that there's a group of people in the Twin Ports area that really miss Heavy on Wrestling, and that when they're ready to come back, those people will be welcoming them with open arms. So I'm glad that I finally pushed them over the edge, and we're going to bring Heavy on Wrestling back to Clyde Ironworks in Duluth.
Perfect. And I know you don't want to step on any toes, but we definitely love First Stuff here as well. I know you and I talk a lot about that. I know Abby's got ideas. I've got ideas. Maybe one day. So
I'm just saying, Bayfront Festival Park is the perfect spot to have a wrestling ring. But
it's funny that you say that.
We can talk off camera. We don't need to. We don't need to spoil anything. We don't want to give everything away here. So.
Yeah. We've got some stuff coming up that I think is going to be very cool. So.
Yeah. Anytime we can get wrestling in Duluth, it's perfect.
Right. Professional wrestling needs to be in Duluth more often.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Eric, you've got a team here behind Abby and I. I've got my group. She's got her group. Mine doesn't have a cool nickname. They're just my lackeys. I hope they hear this. Randy, take another shot, even though I didn't mention Abby. Whoops, I did. But Eric, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle, not only supporting me in my little dream here, as well as just being a stand-up guy and a friend outside of the ring. Like I said, I've known you since about 2009. You've always been cordial. I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come on. Abby, you as well. I wanted you a part of this because you are part of the First Wrestling family. And I do appreciate you guys, for helping me with this little podcast adventure. So.
Hell yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm glad that Abby was able to stay up and hang out with us.
Of course. It's only slightly past my bedtime.
Yeah, then we'll post all your links and stuff in the comments when we post this as well. That way we make sure to show off our friends here. I'll kick you both out to the lounge, Eric. Like I said, if you need to bolt to your other plans, Abby and I can continue to discuss off camera. I'll plug those sponsors. But once again, guys, thank you for being a friend of the Squared Circle. Yes, that is the name of my podcast, but, it's a cheap plug. So, all right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Boom. Two beautiful beards. Yeah, I had to look at your beard just up close one more time. So, all right. Thank you again, sir.
Take care, buddy.
All right. Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. That is another episode of Friends of the Squared Circle, where I'm your host, Crander Hugh, a.k.a. my real name. Let's give a huge shout-out to those sponsors here at Friends of the Squared Circles, one being Superior Creations for all your custom tumbler needs. The website's just below there, as you can see. Those beautiful tumblers there, as well as the Rival podcast there, 13 cards subject to change. Give them a like and follow on all social medias as well. And yes, Eric Cannon's foe in and out of the ring and everyday life. We have Darren Corbin. You can give Darren a follow on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok. Yes, Darren Corbin is reaching almost 500 members on TikTok. Hopefully soon he can go live to let you know more about what he's doing. Another great way to support Darren is on patreon.com/Darren Corbin. And again, let's just run through quick. You can see these little ads here for the upcoming First Wrestling shows. We got the Ranger Rumble, April 28th there. We've got First Wrestling Live, Thursday, May 18th, which is almost sold out. Get your tickets now, as well as St. Paul Slammer, June 10th. That is another great all-age event, as well as WrestlePalooza. Yes, WrestlePalooza. We talk about it all the time here at Friends of the Squared Circle. It is a great show. It's run by a great promoter who you just got to hang out with, and a great promotion of First Wrestling. So, with that being said, it's your boy, Crander Q. Crander Q out.